The witch queen felt impossible magic pulse through a waiter's fingertips during a simple transaction. Curious and suspicious, she followed him through dark alleys to an abandoned building, expecting crime or rebellion. What she found instead was a dying child, golden light pouring from his hands, and a secret so devastating it would force her to choose between her throne and her conscience. The coffee tasted like burnt cardboard, but Serafina didn't care. She wasn't here for the coffee. Something in this diner was humming with magic so old, so powerful, it had pulled her across 3 realms just to find its source. The kind of magic that hadn't existed in 200 years. The kind her council had sworn was extinct. She sat in the corner booth, wrapped in the illusion of an ordinary woman. Dark jeans, tired eyes, forgettable face. Around her, the last customers of Joe's diner shuffled toward the exit. A teenager counting tips. An elderly couple bickering about directions. A trucker gulping down his 5th refill. And then there was him. The waiter moved between tables like he was swimming through quicksand. His name tag read Ethan in faded letters, and exhaustion clung to him like a second skin. Dark circles framed his eyes. His shoulders sagged under an invisible weight. But his smile never wavered. Not when the trucker snapped his fingers for more ketchup, not when the teenager knocked over a glass of water, not even when the elderly woman asked him to reheat her soup for the 3rd time. Serafina watched him closely. Mortals didn't interest her, but magic always did. And the signature she tracked here, wild, untamed, thrumming like a heartbeat beneath the fluorescent lights, was coming from somewhere in this pathetic little restaurant. "Just the check, please," she said when Ethan approached her table. Of course, his voice was hoarse, like he'd been talking for hours. He pulled the receipt from his apron and set it down. "Hope everything was okay." It was fine. She reached for her wallet at the exact moment he reached to clear her plate. Their fingers brushed, just barely, just for a second. The world exploded. Not literally. But energy surged through her hand, up her arm, into her chest with such force that she gasped. Pure, crystalline healing magic flooded her senses, the kind that could knit broken bones in seconds, cure plagues, bring people back from the edge of death. Ancient magic. Forbidden magic. Magic that should not exist. Ethan jerked his hand back, his face pale. "Sorry, He looked down at his fingers like they'd betrayed him, then quickly shoved them into his pockets.
"Sorry.
I'll get your change." He practically ran to the register. Serafina sat frozen, her heart hammering. She hadn't felt power like that since before the Purge, when her council had systematically hunted down every wild magic user in the 5 kingdoms. They'd called it necessary, called it justice. They said wild magic was dangerous, uncontrollable, a threat to the natural order. They'd said they'd eliminated it all. They'd lied. Ethan returned with her change, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. His hands trembled as he set the coins down. "Have a good night, ma'am." "Wait," Serafina kept her voice soft, non-threatening. "Are you all right? You seem—" "I'm fine." The words came out too fast, too defensive. "Just tired. Long shift." He turned away before she could press further, disappearing into the kitchen with a stack of dirty plates. Through the small window in the door, she watched him lean against the counter, pressing his palms against his eyes like he was trying to push back a migraine. Or push back something else entirely. The manager, a round woman with a cigarette tucked behind her ear, flipped the open sign to closed. "All right, folks, we're done for the night. Everyone out." Serafina stood slowly, every instinct screaming at her to stay, to question him, to understand. But the other customers were filing toward the exit, and she couldn't risk drawing attention.
"Not yet."
She stepped outside into the cooling night air and walked exactly 20 paces before vanishing into the shadows between 2 buildings. Then she waited. 10 minutes passed. 15. The lights inside the diner flickered off one by one. The manager emerged first, locking the front door behind her before climbing into a rusted pickup truck. The teenager left next, earbuds in, humming to himself. Finally, Ethan stepped out. He looked even more exhausted under the streetlights, shoulders hunched, face drawn. But it was what he carried that made Seraphina's breath catch. A duffel bag, heavy judging by the way his arms strained. And when he shifted it over his shoulder, she heard the distinct clink of glass bottles rattling against each other. Metal instruments.
Bandages, maybe.
Medical supplies.
No.
Not just medical supplies. Magical ones. She could feel the residual energy even from here. Spelled bottles designed to hold potions, enchanted gauze that could stabilize wounds, tools made for blood magic or ritual healing. What was a human waiter doing with illegal magical equipment? Ethan glanced over his shoulder. A quick, nervous check, then pulled his jacket tighter and started walking. Not toward the parking lot. Not toward the main street with its lights and traffic and witnesses. Toward the alleys. Seraphina's mind raced through possibilities. Black market dealer. Spell trafficker. Maybe he'd stolen the magic somehow, was selling it to the highest bidder. Or maybe he was part of a rebel cell, one of those foolish human groups that thought they could overthrow magical rule with stolen power and desperation. She'd crushed a dozen such rebellions in her first year as queen. This would be no different. She murmured the incantation for invisibility, a simple spell, barely a whisper of effort, and felt the world shift around her. Light bent. Shadows deepened. She became nothing more than a trick of the eye, a distortion in the air. Then she followed him into the dark. The alleys smelled like rotting garbage and stale rain. Seraphina kept her distance, moving silently through the darkness as Ethan navigated the narrow passages with practiced ease.
He knew these streets.
Every turn, every shortcut, every broken fence he ducked under. He'd done this before. Many times. The duffel bag bounced against his hip with each step, the contents rattling louder now. Glass on glass. Metal scraping. Something liquid sloshing inside a container. He moved quickly despite his exhaustion, checking over his shoulder every few minutes. Looking for followers. Looking for threats. Smart. But not smart enough to detect a witch queen's concealment spell. Seraphina's mind churned through scenarios. The healing magic she'd felt was real, impossibly real. That kind of power couldn't be faked or manufactured. It was either born into someone or it wasn't. And if he had it, if he'd somehow survived the purge bloodlines, then he was either the greatest threat her kingdom had ever faced or the greatest secret. Maybe both. The council would demand his execution immediately. No trial. No questions. Just clean elimination, the way they'd handled all the others. But something nagged at her. The way he'd flinched when their hands touched. The fear in his eyes. He hadn't looked like a rebel or a criminal. He'd looked like a man terrified of being discovered. Why would someone with that much power be working as a waiter in a dying diner? Rain began to fall, light at first, then harder, turning the cracked pavement slick and treacherous. Ethan didn't slow down. He pulled his hood up and pressed forward, his breath coming in visible puffs. They'd been walking for 20 minutes now, deeper into the industrial district where factories had closed decades ago and nobody asked questions. Broken windows stared down like empty eyes. Graffiti covered every surface. A rat skittered across their path, and Ethan barely glanced at it. Then he stopped. Seraphina froze mid-step, pressing herself against a wall that didn't exist to anyone looking. Ethan stood at the mouth of an alley, staring at something she couldn't see. His whole body had gone rigid. "I know you're there," he said quietly. Her heart stuttered.
Impossible.
The invisibility spell was flawless. She'd used it for centuries without detection. But Ethan's hand had moved to his jacket pocket, and she caught the faint shimmer of protective magic flickering around his fingers. A ward. Crude, improvised, but functional. "I don't want trouble," he continued, still not turning around. "I'm just trying to get to work. Real work. So whoever you are, whatever you want, please just let me go." Work? What kind of work happened in abandoned industrial districts at midnight? Seraphina said nothing, didn't move. After a long moment, Ethan's shoulders slumped in relief. He must have decided he was being paranoid. He adjusted the duffel bag and kept walking. But now she knew he could sense magic. Not perfectly, not clearly, but enough to feel when something wasn't right. That changed things. The rain intensified, turning the narrow streets into shallow rivers. Water soaked through Ethan's jacket, plastering his hair to his forehead. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve and turned down another alley, this one even darker than the last. At the end of it stood a building. Not a building, Serafina corrected herself as they drew closer. A corpse of a building. 3 stories of crumbling brick and shattered windows. The front door hung off its hinges. The roof had collapsed in several places. Debris littered the entrance, broken glass, twisted metal, chunks of concrete. A sign above the door, barely legible through years of weather damage, read, "Community Center." Ethan paused at the entrance, scanning the street one final time. Then he slipped inside. Serafina approached carefully, extending her magical senses before entering. What she felt made her stop cold.
People.
At least a dozen of them. Maybe more. And not just any people. She felt the distinctive energy signatures of children. Young ones. Their life forces flickering like candle flames in a storm. Some were sick. Badly sick. She could taste the rot of infection, the weakness of failing organs, the desperation of bodies shutting down. And underneath it all, she felt something else. Something that made her breath catch. Hope magic. Tiny sparks of it, fragile and fading, but there. The kind of magic that only manifested in places where people believed miracles could happen. What was happening in this building? She moved to a broken window, peering inside while maintaining her invisibility. The interior was barely better than the exterior, exposed beams, water-stained walls, no electricity. But someone had tried. Blankets covered the worst holes. Candles provided dim light. Makeshift beds lined the walls, and on those beds lay children. A girl with bandages wrapped around her head. A boy whose arm hung in a makeshift sling. A toddler burning with fever, his mother pressing wet cloths to his forehead. And moving between them, dropping to his knees beside the sickest child, a boy of maybe 7 whose breathing rattled in his chest like broken glass, was Ethan. He opened the duffel bag and pulled out supplies. Not stolen magical equipment for profit. Medicine. Bandages. Clean water. Spelled salves that glowed faintly with preservation magic. Then he placed both hands on the boy's chest, and light poured from his palms like liquid gold. The light was impossible. Serafina had seen healing magic before, studied it, regulated it, watched her court healers perform carefully controlled rituals that took hours and left them bedridden for days. This was nothing like that. The golden glow spreading from Ethan's hands was pure, concentrated life force. It flowed into the boy's chest like water finding cracks in stone, seeking out every injury, every infection, every damaged cell. The child's rattling breath smoothed. His blue-tinged lips flushed pink. A wound on his arm, infected, festering, began to close. Ethan's face contorted with effort. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold. His hands trembled, but he didn't pull away. "That's it, Marcus," he whispered. "Come on, buddy. Stay with me." The boy's eyes fluttered open. "Mr. Ethan?" "Yeah, it's me. You're going to be okay." Around them, parents watched with expressions Serafina recognized, the desperate hope of people who'd run out of options. A woman clutched rosary beads. A man wiped tears from his weathered face. They'd seen this before. They believed in it. They believed in him. The golden light faded slowly, like dawn retreating. Ethan's hands dropped to his sides, and he swayed slightly before catching himself on the edge of the mattress. The boy, Marcus, was breathing normally now, his color restored, the wound on his arm reduced to a pink scar. "Thank you," the boy's mother sobbed, grabbing Ethan's hand. "Thank you. Thank you." "It's okay, Mrs. Chun." Ethan's voice was hoarse, exhausted. "He's going to need rest. Real rest. And clean bandages twice a day. I left extra in the bag. How much do we owe you?" "Nothing. You don't owe me anything." Serafina's mind reeled. He was healing them for free? spending what had to be an enormous amount of personal energy, risking exposure, risking execution for nothing. Ethan moved to the next child without pausing. A girl with a badly burned hand. He examined the wound carefully, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This is going to hurt a little, sweetie. Can you be brave for me?" The girl nodded, biting her lip. Again, the golden light. Again, the impossible magic flowing from his hands like he was born to it, which, Serafina realized with growing horror, he probably was. This wasn't learned magic. This was bloodline magic. Ancient healer magic from the families her council had systematically destroyed. Families she'd allowed to be destroyed. The thought made her sick. The girl's burn smoothed over, leaving unblemished skin. She flexed her fingers in wonder. "It doesn't hurt anymore." "Good." Ethan managed a tired smile. "Keep it clean, okay? And no touching hot stoves." He worked through the room methodically. A broken rib. A respiratory infection. A deep cut that had been stitched poorly with household thread. Each healing took something from him. She could see him growing paler, more unsteady. But he never stopped. An elderly man approached with a young woman leaning heavily on his arm. "Mr. Ethan, please. My granddaughter. She collapsed at work today. They said her kidneys are failing, that she needs surgery we can't afford. Let me see her." Ethan guided the woman to a chair. His hands glowed again, but this time the light flickered. Unstable. He gritted his teeth, forcing more energy through sheer willpower. Too much, Serafina thought. He's pushing too hard. The woman's breathing eased, color returning to her face. But when Ethan finished, he stumbled backward and nearly fell. A teenage boy caught him.
Whoa, easy.
"You okay?" "Fine." Ethan waved him off, but his hands were shaking badly now. "Just need a minute." "You need more than a minute," an older woman said sharply from the doorway. She looked like she ran this place. Practical clothes, commanding presence, worry etched deep in her face. "That's 6 healings tonight, Ethan. You promised you'd stop at 4-inch. Mrs. Rodriguez, I can't just. You're going to kill yourself at this rate."
Ay fine.
"You collapsed last week. You were unconscious for 20 minutes. Serafina's breath caught.
Collapsed?
Healing magic didn't cause collapse in properly trained healers. It caused fatigue, yes, but not system failure. Unless the magic was eating him alive. That happens sometimes with wild magic users who lacked proper training. The power burned through them like fire through paper, consuming their own life force to fuel the healings. It was one of the reasons her council had deemed them too dangerous to live. But watching Ethan now, watching him push himself to his feet, pull out a bottle of water and down half of it, then turn to the next patient with determination in his eyes, she didn't see danger. She saw sacrifice. "Just a few more," Ethan said quietly. "Then I'm done, I promise." Mrs. Rodriguez looked like she wanted to argue, but a child's cough from the corner stopped her. A little girl, maybe 3 years old, her breathing labored. "Please," the child's father begged. "She's gotten worse." Ethan closed his eyes briefly, steadying himself. Then he nodded and knelt beside the little girl. The golden light emerged again, weaker now but still present. Still fighting. And Serafina understood with crystalline clarity, this man wasn't a threat to her kingdom. He was everything her kingdom should have been. The last candle guttered out around 3 in the morning. Serafina had watched it all. Every healing. Every moment of pain that flickered across Ethan's face. Every parent who thanked him with tears in their eyes. By the time the final family left, a mother carrying her now sleeping son, Ethan looked like a corpse propped upright by pure stubbornness. Mrs. Rodriguez touched his shoulder gently. "Go home. Get some sleep." "I will." His voice was barely a whisper. "I mean it, Ethan. Your daughter needs you alive." Something passed across his face, pain deeper than any physical exhaustion. "I know." Mrs. Rodriguez left, locking the broken door as best she could. The building fell silent except for the rain drumming against the roof and the occasional creak of settling wood. Ethan didn't move. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, staring at nothing. Then, slowly, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph. Even from her position by the window, Serafina could see it clearly, a little girl, maybe 5 years old, with wild curly hair and a gap-toothed smile. She wore a yellow dress and held a dandelion like it was the most precious thing in the world. "I'm sorry, Lily," Ethan whispered to the photo. "I'm so sorry." He set the picture down carefully and pressed his palms against his eyes. His shoulders shook. Not from cold. From something much worse. Then he did something that made Serafina's blood turn to ice. He pulled back his sleeve. His forearm was covered in marks, thin, dark lines spreading from his wrist to his elbow like cracks in porcelain. They pulsed faintly with a sickly gray light. Curse marks. Advanced curse marks. Death magic. 6 more weeks, he said to himself. Maybe 8 if I'm careful. If I don't heal as often. His laugh was bitter, broken. But how do I tell Marcus's mother I can't help him? How do I tell Mr. Chin his daughter has to die because I'm too selfish to give up a few more days? He stood slowly, every movement obviously painful, and climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor. Serafina followed invisibly, her heart pounding with questions she couldn't answer. The 2nd floor was even more destroyed than the first. Most of the rooms had collapsed entirely. But in the corner, protected by what looked like hastily constructed support beams, was a small space that had been transformed into something resembling a bedroom. A sleeping bag, a battery-powered lamp, books stacked neatly in a corner. And on a makeshift bed of blankets and pillows, a little girl slept. Lily, the girl from the photograph. Except she looked nothing like that picture now. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. Dark veins spiderwebbed across her temples. Her breathing was shallow, labored. And around her tiny wrist was a bracelet that glowed with the same sickly gray light as the marks on Ethan's arm. A linking curse. Serafina's hands went cold. She knew this magic. Ancient, illegal blood magic designed to bind 2 life forces together. When one person used their power, the other suffered. It was supposed to be a punishment for wild magic users, a way to make their gifts useless by forcing them to kill someone they loved every time they tried to heal. Her council had created this curse. She'd signed the order authorizing its use. Ethan knelt beside his daughter and brushed hair from her forehead. His hand trembled. "Hey, sweetheart. Daddy's home." Lily's eyes opened slightly.
Daddy.
Her voice was so weak, so fragile. "Yeah, it's me. Did you help people tonight?" "I did. I helped a lot of people." "Good," she smiled, but it was the smile of someone who didn't understand what it was costing. "You're a hero."
No, baby.
"I'm not," his voice cracked. "A hero would find a way to save you. You will. You always do." Ethan pulled her into his arms carefully, like she might shatter. Tears streamed down his face. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Every time I heal someone, you get weaker." The doctor said. He choked on the words. "They said your heart is failing, that your organs are shutting down." "It doesn't hurt, Daddy." "Not really. It should be me. It should be my life, not yours." But then who would help the sick people? The simple logic of a child. The devastating truth she didn't understand. Ethan held her tighter, rocking slightly. "I'm going to find a way to break this curse. I promise. I've been researching, asking questions. Someone has to know how to stop it." "Okay, Daddy. I believe you." She fell asleep in his arms, her breathing evening out slightly. Ethan sat there on the floor, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry. If I'd known having this power would hurt you, I never would have used it. I would have let them all die. Every single one. I would have chosen you." From the shadows, Serafina felt something crack open in her chest. This was her doing. Her council's doing. They'd hunted healers by making their gifts into weapons against their own families. They'd turned compassion into a death sentence. And she'd let it happen. Morning came too quickly. Serafina had spent the remaining hours of the night watching Ethan sleep, or try to. He woke every 20 minutes to check Lily's breathing, to adjust her blankets, to press his hand against her forehead and monitor her fever. When dawn finally broke through the shattered windows, he looked worse than he had after healing 6 people. He kissed Lily's forehead, whispered something Serafina couldn't hear, and left for the diner. She followed. By the time he arrived at Joe's diner, the morning rush was already underway. Truckers crowded the counter. A group of construction workers shouted orders. The cook was swearing at a broken griddle. Ethan tied on his apron and dove into the chaos without hesitation. Taking orders. Refilling coffee. Smiling at customers who barely looked at him. Like he hadn't spent the entire night saving lives and watching his daughter die. Serafina sat in the same corner booth, wearing the same forgettable face. She ordered coffee she wouldn't drink and watched him work. She'd spent the pre-dawn hours researching in her mind's archive, the magical records every witch queen inherited. The linking curse was called the Compassion Killer. It had been designed specifically to eliminate wild healers by making their power toxic. Use your gift, kill someone you love. Stop using it, watch strangers die, while you keep your family safe. Either way, the healer was destroyed. It was brilliant in its cruelty, and she'd approved it without question. Trusted her counsel when they said it was necessary. Never once asked to see the people it would affect. The lunch rush ended. The diner emptied. Ethan wiped down tables mechanically, his movements slow with exhaustion. Serafina stood and approached the counter. He looked up, recognition flickering in his eyes.
Oh.
You were here last night. I was. Same booth. Actually, I was hoping we could talk. His entire body went rigid. Talk about what? About the community center. She kept her voice low, gentle. About the children you healed. About your daughter. The color drained from his face. The coffee pot in his hand slipped, shattering against the floor. Hot liquid splashed across the tiles. I don't know what you're talking about. He grabbed a towel, kneeling quickly to clean up the mess. His hands shook so badly he could barely hold the fabric. You must have me confused with someone else. Ethan, please. Who are you? He looked up at her, and she saw real terror in his eyes. Are you from the council? Did they send you? I need to explain. No, he stumbled to his feet, backing away.
No, please.
Please don't take her. She's just a little girl. She hasn't done anything wrong. Whatever they think I did, whatever rules I broke, it's all me. Punish me, kill me, I don't care. Just leave Lily alone. His voice cracked on his daughter's name. Several customers turned to stare. I'm not here to hurt her, Serafina said quickly. I'm here to help. That's what they all say, bitterness dripped from his words. That's what the doctor said when he diagnosed her. That's what the social worker said before trying to take her away, because I couldn't afford proper treatment. That's what the council investigator said before he put this curse on her. There was an investigator? 3 years ago.
He found out about my healing.
Said it was illegal, unregistered, dangerous. He gave me a choice, stop using it and turn myself in, or keep helping people and watch my daughter pay the price. Tears streamed down Ethan's face. I chose wrong. I kept healing. And now she's dying because I couldn't let strangers suffer. The manager emerged from the kitchen. Ethan? Everything okay out here?
Fine, muddy.
Just clumsy. He wiped his eyes quickly with his sleeve. Marie looked at Serafina, suspiciously. This lady bothering you? No, she's... Yes, Serafina interrupted. I was bothering him. I apologize. She pulled money from her wallet and set it on the counter, far more than the coffee cost. For the trouble. She walked out before Marie could respond, before Ethan could say anything else. But she only went far enough to wait by the alley behind the diner. 10 minutes later, Ethan burst through the back door. He looked around frantically until he spotted her in the shadows. Why are you doing this? His voice was desperate, exhausted. What do you want from me? Serafina dropped the illusion. Her true form materialized, dark hair that moved like smoke, eyes that glowed with ancient power, the unmistakable aura of royalty that had been suppressed for hours. The mark of the witch queen blazed on her collarbone, a symbol every magical being in 5 kingdoms would recognize. Ethan's legs nearly gave out. He caught himself against the wall.
Oh God.
Oh God, I'm the one who approved the curse, Seraphina said quietly. The one whose counsel hunted your bloodline. The one responsible for your daughter's suffering. He stared at her, uncomprehending. And I'm going to fix it, she continued, her voice hardening with resolve. Even if it means destroying my entire kingdom to do it. Why would you? Because what I saw last night was everything a queen should be. And I've been sitting on a throne built by monsters. The royal court of shadows was exactly as Seraphina had left it, cold, imposing, and absolutely insufferable. She materialized in the center of the throne room without warning, startling the guards stationed at the doors. The High Council sat in their elevated seats, arranged in a semicircle around her throne like vultures perched on a carcass. 7 council members. 7 ancient witches and warlocks who'd advised her since her coronation. Who'd promised to guide her, to help her rule with wisdom. Who'd been lying to her for years. Your Majesty, High Chancellor Mordain stood, his silver robes sweeping the floor. We weren't expecting your return so soon. How was your reconnaissance in the human territories? Educational Seraphina ascended the steps to her throne but didn't sit. She wanted to be standing for this. I found something interesting. Oh. Counselor Vera leaned forward, her cat-like eyes gleaming. Do share. A healer. Wild bloodline. Powerful enough to cure fatal wounds in minutes. The temperature in the room dropped. The council members exchanged glances, quick, nervous, guilty. Impossible, Mordain said smoothly. All wild healers were eliminated during the purge. You know this, Your Majesty. We ensured complete eradication. Did you? Seraphina descended the steps slowly, deliberately. Because this one seems very much alive. And very much suffering from a curse I recognize. The compassion killer. The one I authorized without fully understanding its purpose. Your Majesty, if a healer somehow survived, his 5-year-old daughter is dying, her voice cut through the room like a blade. The curse is draining her life force every time he uses his gift to save others. She has weeks left. Maybe less. Counselor Theron, the oldest member, waved a dismissive hand. Unfortunate collateral damage. But you must understand, these wild magic users are what? Seraphina's power flared, making the candles around the room flicker. Dangerous?
He's a waiter, Theron.
He works for minimum wage and spends his nights healing children in an abandoned building. For free. That's exactly why they're dangerous, Vera snapped. Do you know what happens when common people have access to free healing? They stop needing us. They stop fearing us. They start questioning why they pay taxes to a magical kingdom that hoards resources while their children die of preventable diseases. The words hit Seraphina like a physical blow. You curse them to maintain power? We curse them to maintain order, Mordain corrected. Your grandmother understood this. Your mother understood this. Wild magic users inspire hope in the lower classes. Hope leads to rebellion. Rebellion leads to chaos. So, you made their gifts into weapons. We made their gifts irrelevant, Theron stood, his ancient bones creaking. The compassion killer ensures that any wild healer who tries to help people will be forced to watch someone they love die. Most choose to stop using their magic entirely. The few who don't, he shrugged. Well, they eliminate themselves eventually. Seraphina felt sick. How many? How many what, Your Majesty? How many healers have you destroyed this way? Silence fell over the council chamber. Finally, Mordain spoke carefully. 43 families. Over the past 60 years. All clean eliminations. No public executions.
No martyrs.
Just quiet, private suffering that discouraged others from revealing their gifts. 43 families. Hundreds of people. All condemned to watch their loved ones die or live in silence while others suffered. I want the curse removed, Seraphina said quietly. From the healer. From his daughter. Immediately. Absolutely not. Vera's voice was sharp. Your Majesty, with respect, you're being emotional. This is one man, one child. One innocent child dying for our political convenience. One acceptable sacrifice for the stability of 5 kingdoms. I don't accept it, Seraphina's power surged, cracking the marble floor beneath her feet. I am your queen, and I'm ordering you to break the curse. Mordaine's expression hardened. We cannot do that, Your Majesty. Cannot or will not. Cannot, he emphasized the word carefully. The curse can only be broken by the one who cast it. High Inquisitor Aldrich performed all the compassion killer rituals. And Aldrich died 4 years ago. The room tilted. You're lying. Check the records yourself. We told you he retired to the northern provinces. In truth, he suffered a stroke after performing his final curse. We kept it quiet to avoid panic. Seraphina's mind raced. Then we find another way. Research. Ancient texts. There's always another way. There isn't. Theron's voice was almost gentle. We've already researched extensively. The compassion killer was designed to be permanent. Unbreakable. That was the point. Then I'll break it myself. You'll kill yourself trying, Vera said flatly. That level of curse-breaking requires sacrificing equivalent power. To break a death curse, you'd need to offer death magic of equal strength, meaning you'd either die or cripple your own abilities permanently. I don't care. We do, Mordaine's voice turned cold. Your Majesty, you're young. Idealistic. But you need to understand something. This healer and his daughter must die. Before word spreads. Before people learn that wild magic still exists. We've already dispatched elimination teams. Seraphina's blood turned to ice. You what? They'll reach the community center tonight. Clean execution.
No witnesses.
I forbid it. You can't, Mordaine smiled, and it was the smile of a predator. Emergency Protocol 17. In situations where the Crown's judgment is compromised, the High Council has authority to act independently for the kingdom's security. I am your queen, and we are your handlers. Vera stood, power crackling around her fingers. Time you learn the difference. Seraphina didn't bother with the portal. She tore through reality itself, ripping a hole between dimensions and stepping through into the human world. The spell cost her. She felt it burning through her reserves like acid, but she didn't care. She had to get there first. The storm had returned, worse than before. Rain fell in sheets, turning the streets into rivers. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the abandoned district in brief, violent flashes. Seraphina ran. She reached the community center just as the first scream started. The front wall exploded inward, showering the interior with debris. Through the smoking hole stepped 3 figures wrapped in council armor, enchanted plate that absorbed magic and reflected it back at attackers. Assassination specialists. The kind the council sent when they wanted no survivors. Inside, parents scrambled to shield their children. Mrs. Rodriguez stood in front of the youngest ones, her arms spread wide despite having no magic to defend them with. And Ethan. Ethan stood in the center of the room with Lily clutched to his chest, golden light already gathering in his free hand. Nobody moves, the lead assassin announced, his voice distorted by his helmet. By order of the High Council, all wild magic users and witnesses are to be eliminated. Resistance will be met with immediate execution. These are children, Mrs. Rodriguez shouted. Sick children. Irrelevant. The assassin raised his hand, dark magic coalescing into a spear of pure death energy. He aimed it directly at the nearest child, Marcus, the boy Ethan had healed hours ago. Ethan moved on instinct. He set Lily down behind him and threw himself forward, golden light erupting from his palms in a desperate shield. The death spear hit the shield and shattered it like glass. Then it hit Ethan. He flew backward, slamming into the wall hard enough to crack the concrete. Blood poured from a wound in his shoulder. But he forced himself up, placing himself between the assassins and Lily. Run, he gasped to the families. Get out.
Now.
They didn't need to be told twice. Parents grabbed children and bolted for the back exits. Mrs. Rodriguez tried to pull Lily to safety, but the little girl wouldn't leave her father. Daddy. Lily, go. The second assassin raised his hand. Magic crackled around his fingers, forming into chains designed to bind and burn. They shot forward, wrapping around Ethan's wrists and ankles. He screamed. The chains tightened, glowing red-hot. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. Ethan collapsed to his knees, his body convulsing. Daddy. Lily ran toward him despite Mrs. Rodriguez's attempts to hold her back. The third assassin turned toward the little girl, magic gathering in his palm. Eliminating primary curse target. The spell left his hand, a bolt of concentrated death magic that would stop her heart instantly. It never reached her. Serafina appeared between them in a burst of smoke and fury, her true form blazing with power. The death bolt hit her palm and simply ceased to exist, absorbed into the infinite well of her magic. You, the lead assassin breathed. Me, Serafina's eyes burned with light older than kingdoms. Stand down. All of you.
Now.
Your Majesty, we have our orders. I am your order. Her voice shook the building. I am your queen, and I command you to leave these people alone. The assassins hesitated. Then the lead one spoke carefully. High Chancellor Mordain predicted you might interfere. He gave us alternative instructions. The three of them moved in perfect synchronization, forming a triangle around her. Their armor began to glow, drawing power from each other, amplifying it into something massive. A binding ritual, designed specifically to trap and neutralize a witch queen. They were trying to imprison her. You dare? Serafina's power exploded outward, dark energy cascading through the room. She shattered the binding before it could form, then turned that energy into pure destruction. The first assassin went down immediately, his armor cracking like an eggshell. The second managed to throw up a shield, but she tore through it and sent him crashing through the already broken wall. The third, the one who tried to kill Lily, she saved for last. She grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Her power poured into him, not to kill, but to show him exactly what she was capable of. Every nightmare he'd ever had. Every fear. Every moment of pain. All of it compressed into 5 seconds of absolute terror. When she dropped him, he scrambled away and ran. The other two followed, armor cracked, pride shattered. Serafina turned to find Ethan still on his knees, blood soaking through his shirt. The chains had fallen away, but the damage was done. He looked up at her with hazy eyes. Lily, he whispered. Is she? I'm here, Daddy. Lily knelt beside him, tears streaming down her pale face.
I'm okay. Good. That's
good. His eyes started to close. No, Serafina knelt beside them, her hands already glowing with healing magic. Don't you dare. I didn't betray my entire council just to watch you die. The curse, Ethan managed. I'll break it. She poured power into his wound, stabilizing the bleeding. I'll break it even if it kills me. Why would you do that? Serafina looked at Lily, then at Ethan. At this small, impossible family that had somehow become worth more than her crown. Because you showed me what a real ruler looks like, she said quietly. And it wasn't sitting on a throne. Breaking a death curse required death magic. Serafina knew this. She'd known it from the moment Mordain told her the curse was permanent. To save Lily meant offering her own life force in exchange. Not all of it, but enough to cripple her power permanently. Enough to make her mortal. She didn't hesitate. They moved Ethan and Lily to the cleanest room in the building. Mrs. Rodriguez had returned with supplies, and word had spread. The families Ethan had saved came back to help. They cleared debris, lit candles, created a space that almost looked sacred. Ethan tried to argue. You can't do this. You're a queen. Your kingdom needs you. My kingdom is run by monsters. Serafina drew the ritual circle in chalk, her hands steady despite the fear curling in her chest. They need someone better. Someone who actually cares about the people they're supposed to protect. But you'll die.
No.
I'll live, she smiled at him, sad but certain. Just differently. Lily lay in the center of the circle, her breathing shallow. The curse marks on her wrist pulsed weakly, counting down her final hours. Serafina knelt beside her and placed both hands over the child's heart. "This is going to feel strange, sweetheart. But I need you to trust me." "Will it hurt?" Lily's voice was so small. "Not you." Serafina closed her eyes and began the incantation, words in a language older than civilization, pulling on power that existed before kingdoms, before councils, before corruption. Light and shadow poured from her hands. Gold and black, life and death, twisting together into something new. She felt the curse fighting back, trying to maintain its hold. It was strong, brilliantly designed, nearly perfect, but it hadn't been designed to withstand a witch queen willing to sacrifice everything. Serafina poured her power into Lily, not healing magic, but transformation magic. Unmaking the curse at its core, unraveling the threads that bound the child's life to her father's gift. It felt like tearing her own soul apart. She screamed. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. "Stop. You're killing yourself." "Almost." There. The curse marks on Lily's wrist flared bright gray, then began to fade. Slowly at first, then faster. The dark veins under her skin receded. Her breathing deepened. Color returned to her cheeks. And Serafina felt her own power draining away, like water, through broken fingers. The mark of the witch queen on her collarbone flickered. Dimmed. Went dark. She collapsed. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the repaired windows. Repaired windows. She blinked, confused. The building had been destroyed. But now she saw new glass, patched walls, clean floors. People moved through the space purposefully, painting, hanging curtains, arranging furniture. "You're awake." Ethan sat beside her makeshift bed, Lily asleep in his lap. Both of them looked healthier than she'd ever seen. The curse marks were completely gone. "How long?" Serafina's voice was hoarse. 3 days. "We thought we'd lost you twice," he smiled, and it was the first real smile she'd seen from him. "But you're stubborn. Lily said you were too mean to die." "I'm not mean." "She's 5. Everyone's mean to 5-year-olds. Serafina tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Her body felt wrong, heavy, limited, fragile. She reached for her magic and found only embers where an inferno used to be. "It worked," she whispered. "The curse is broken. Completely. Lily's doctors say she's healthy. No organ damage, no failure, nothing. It's like she was never sick." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "You saved her. You saved us. And destroyed myself in the process. You're alive. That's what matters." A commotion outside drew their attention. Serafina recognized the voices, not council assassins, but common magical citizens. They'd been arriving steadily since word spread of what happened. A queen who'd given up her power to save a child. Mrs. Rodriguez entered, carrying a tray of food. "You need to eat. And then you need to see what's happening outside." "What's happening?" "A revolution," Mrs. Rodriguez grinned. "Turns out people don't like councils who murder children. Half your kingdom is demanding the High Council be removed. The other half already removed them." Serafina's heart stuttered. "What?" "They're gone. Arrested by your own royal guard. Apparently, attempting to imprison the witch queen is treason." Mrs. Rodriguez set down the tray. "Your kingdom is waiting for you to come home and actually rule it." "I can't." "I'm not." Serafina looked at her hands. Ordinary hands. Mortal hands. "I'm not the witch queen anymore." "No," Ethan said quietly. "You're something better. You're the queen who chose people over power." Over the following weeks, everything changed. Serafina returned to her kingdom not as an all-powerful monarch, but as a leader who'd proven her values through sacrifice. She appointed new council members, common citizens, healers, teachers. People who understood suffering. She made Ethan head healer of the newly established Department of Magical Medicine, with full authority to train wild magic users instead of hunting them. The abandoned community center became the sanctuary for magical children, a place where anyone, regardless of background or ability, could receive healing. Protected by royal decree and funded by redistributed council wealth. And on quiet evenings, Serafina would sit with Ethan and Lily in the sanctuary's garden, watching children play without fear. "Do you regret it?" Ethan asked one evening. "Giving up your power?" Serafina watched Lily chase butterflies through the flowers, healthy, laughing, alive. "No," she said. "I traded a throne built on suffering for a family built on hope. That's not a sacrifice. That's the best decision I ever made." Lily ran over and grabbed both their hands. "Come play." And for the first time in her long life, Serafina did something she'd never done as Witch Queen. She played.